this time, I've been feeling hopeless till you came around. All this time, you're the only reason I'm not chasing highs. What is love? Lately I've been wondering just what is love? I don't know. No one ever showed me. I've been on my own for too long. But if you hold me now, let me into your heart.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley, and this little page realm that you have just entered is the Addict Mom. So, what does that mean exactly? It means I'm a mom and I am a heroin addict. Now, I talk about a lot of things. I like to call myself an advocate for mental health awareness and addiction awareness. I am currently in school to get my human services degree to be an addiction counselor. I'd like to take it all the way up to my master's in psychology to be a certified addiction professional, and just to keep going up. I want to get my certification in interventions to be able to, perform and host interventions. I want to take it all the way up as far as I can go. So this is more than just a YouTube channel. It's more than just my TikToks. It's more than just a blog. This is my passion. This is what I am planning to do for the rest of my life, to help people and bring awareness to mental health illnesses. I'm going to start off with a very quick disclaimer. If you have watched more than one video, you know what I'm about to say. My son is almost 4 and he is nonverbal. So that means he does not talk when he communicates. He screams, he yells, he sings, he cries, he whines, he whistles, he does everything but use his mouth to talk. If you hear him, he is fine. This is actually the second time I've had to start filming this video because I don't currently have a babysitter right now. My mom usually will sit with him, but she's out. So earlier I had to stop filming, go calm him down. He's fine. As always, I will edit out as much as I can. If I am unable to, then I will just refilm the whole thing. The intro is a little bit different than how I usually start out my videos, and that is because I don't know who all knows this. I don't know who's aware that May is the month to bring awareness to mental health issues, mental health disorders, and I want to talk about mental health issues on a more personal level. I have talked a little bit about my addiction. I have said a little bit of maybe how my opioid addiction started. I have been addicted to more drugs than opioids, and they did start when I was 11 years old. I haven't really gotten too deep into that just because I want to peel the layers back very slowly. I don't want to give everything away at once because it's a lot of information, and I have found with all of the traumatic events that have happened in my life, giving it all up at once kind of scares people away, and I don't want to tell my whole life story, scare people away, and y'all not come back to understand what's going on or why certain things have happened. So one thing I have not talked about a lot is my own mental health disorders and mental health illnesses. I have stated that I have mental health disorders and I do suffer from mental health crises time and time again, but I haven't actually explained it. And I think one of the best ways to bring awareness to a subject is to talk about how it has impacted your life personally. And I'm going to do that. So this is going to have a trigger warning. There's going to be a lot of things talked about that can be and will be very triggering to some people, possibly a lot of people. So if you cannot handle self-harm or talking about self-harm, talking about eating disorders, drug addiction, being in psych wards, then go ahead and exit out. You can still support me by following me, subscribing to me, sharing my videos. That gives me enough support. So if you cannot watch this, I completely understand. All right, so I guess I'll just start off from, listing the mental disorders I am diagnosed as having. As everyone knows, I am a drug addict. If you are unaware, though, there is an actual disorder. It's called substance abuse disorder. And that means you're a drug addict. It means you have some type of substance abuse. And it's that actual technical term when you're getting treated, they have to put it in. They can't just say drug addiction. It's an actual disorder. It's an actual illness. So I am diagnosed substance abuse disorder. I am diagnosed bipolar, manic depressive. I am diagnosed PTSD. I am diagnosed OCD. I am diagnosed anxiety, generalized anxiety. All of these illnesses I have been diagnosed with from a very young age. The first diagnosis I got was PTSD and anxiety. That was at the age of about 15, 16. I got diagnosed bipolar when I was like 16, they started diving into bipolar disorder, because the way bipolar works, especially back then meaning like about 15 years ago, they didn't classify minors under the age of 18 as bipolar disorder. They were diagnosed to have ADHD. And a lot of people back then, people meaning medical professionals up 15, 20, 30 years ago, they would say, and they assumed that a kid with ADHD, as they grew up, it would manifest in the bipolar, the highs and the lows, the ups and the downs. So whenever I was around 16 years old and I was in therapy for a few years at that time, technically it was labeled as ADHD, but I did not have ADHD symptoms at all. It was bipolar, manic depressive episodes. So that's around the time that it started opening up that, okay, maybe teenagers can have bipolar and it's not just ADD or ADHD. So I was diagnosed at the age of 16 with bipolar. And then throughout my adulthood, I went back and forth to therapists and psychologists, and it's always stuck with me. I've always been bipolar 1 my entire life, because there's bipolar disorder 1, bipolar disorder 2. The main difference between 1 and 2 is how often the manic episodes happen, meaning, is it every month? Is it every 2 months? Is it twice a year, 4 times a year? How often does it happen? And the severity of these highs and lows. How high do you get high and how low do you get low? Are you suicidal, or are you just a little bit upset with your life? Or are you angry? Are you violent? Are you happy? Are you spending all your money? It's the severity at which you go up and down. And I was diagnosed at the time as bipolar 1, meaning I had manic depressive episodes more than 4 times a year at the time, whenever I was 16. More than 4 times a year. And my lows were extremely low, to the point of self-harm and worse. And my highs were extremely high, meaning I thought I was invincible. I thought nothing could hurt me. I thought I was the shit. Nobody could get better than me. And it would go back and forth. And it's always gone back and forth my entire life. I've gone on and off medicine my entire life, here and there. Me being an addict intensified these highs and lows. When I would be withdrawing off medicine, detoxing off medicine, or the first few months that I would stop taking drugs, because I never truly got into treatment until 4 years ago, which I'm very open about. I was a binge user, so I would use for a few months, stop for a few months, and I went back and forth like that for almost 20 years. It was ridiculous. It was chaotic. It was hectic. It was horrible on my body. Now, during my active addiction, the times I would be using, my highs and my lows were so extreme. It was horrible. I would be so high and just elated, and literally in the blink of an eye, within a 10-second time frame, I would experience 5 different emotions and then try jumping off a building, try playing in traffic, jumping in front of a car. And I'm not being dramatic. Literally, that's what I would go from in a matter of 10 seconds. And I believe the drugs just intensified it. And then whenever I would come off the drugs, I would have better control of my emotions, and I would have better control of my mental state. I would still have some manic episodes when I was not using, but they were never as severe as while I would be using my active addiction. Since I've been sober, I have not had a manic episode since probably since 2016. The last manic episode I had was February of 2017. I officially got sober, got myself into treatment in May of 2017. So quite literally a few months before I chose to get sober was my last manic episode, when I tried jumping off a building, tried jumping in front of a car. It was bad, you guys. And since then, I have not had a manic episode. I've had a few instances of anger coming out and like yelling and screaming, but it hasn't been a manic episode. It was just uncontrollable anger that I would get over in like 15, 20 minutes. That's another issue I have of mine, that I don't have anger issues, but every now and again I have bursts of anger that I cannot control, and I'm learning how to as I've gotten a clear mind, and as I've gotten sober and learned myself. I am definitely learning how to better control that. I have learned a lot of times my anger stems from anxiety. Usually I'm not angry about something, I'm anxious, and it comes out as me yelling, it comes out as me screaming, it comes out as me seeming angry, but really I'm having a panic attack. And that's another thing I've learned. That's a different subject. So I have not been on medicine for my bipolar in a while. It's been since the last time I was on medicine for my bipolar was in the year 2013 going into 2014. I got off in 2014. That was the same year I became addicted to heroin. So, in my opinion, in my experience, my mental health status and how I would treat my mental health issues directly is tied in with my drug addiction. When I was using, I was not taking care of myself. When I was not using and I was clean for a few months at a time, I would get to a psychologist, I would get to my therapist, I would do my treatments, I would be fine. I would take my medicines and I would be on track. I would be in school. Those are the times I was a good mom. I was working, I was coming home, doing what I should have been doing. And then every 9 to 12 months, I don't know what it is, I would get a hair up my ass, I would get bored, I would get depressed, anxious, and I would stop taking my meds and I would start using again. And it was like that back and forth for almost 20 years, from the time I was 12 years old up until a few years ago. So next, I guess, mental illness I have is PTSD. I was diagnosed PTSD when I was about 15 years old. Many things contribute to this. The initial cause was an assault I suffered whenever I was 11 years old. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that right now. I will talk about that later on. I don't feel like opening up about that right now, and I don't have to. So I will just say I was 11 years old. I was assaulted by somebody I should have been able to trust. Moving on. I did not open up about that until I was 14 years old, because I didn't realize it was bad. I didn't realize what happened to me. When I realized what happened to me is when I opened up and my parents got me in therapy. About a little, maybe 6 to 9 months into therapy, I was diagnosed PTSD. Now, throughout my life, since the time I was 15, things have happened that has further escalated my PTSD. When I was 15, I had 2 people that were extremely close to me die 2 weeks apart. That contributed a lot to my PTSD. Whenever I was 19, my boyfriend at the time, he had died. That contributed a lot to my PTSD. And then after he died, I just went downhill. And that's when my addiction took full force, and I stopped caring about my life. And I seen a lot of things in that time, and I had experienced a lot of things in that time that has contributed to my PTSD. Again, I'm not going to name specifics. I will go over later on in life in a different video because it's just too much. But I've experienced a lot of things that have just ruined my psyche. And after that, just throughout my 20s, same thing. When I was about 23, 24, right before my heroin addiction started, I had the medical abortion. That I think was the final cap to my PTSD, going through something traumatic that sent me off the deep end. And that's when my heroin addiction started, because I don't think I had anything left in me. I could not fit any more trauma into my brain without my brain exploding and without my mental state topping off and just jumping off a cliff somewhere and saying, we're done. You cannot handle anything else. You need to do something. And that's really where my addiction just went off, and I didn't care. That's when it was just bad. So throughout my life, I would just have things happening, every few years, something happening. And I never truly got the help I needed. So I would do therapy for a few months at a time, and I thought that was good. And then something else traumatic would happen. Let me go do therapy for a year. I thought I was good. And then something else traumatic would happen. But I was never really addressing the issues that I needed to get better. So every time something worse or something in addition happened, it was just piling on top of each other. And right when my heroin addiction started, it just all came out, and I stopped caring, and I didn't want to live. I didn't care what happened to me. So as of right now, I still suffer from PTSD. I still have a lot of symptoms of PTSD. I still have the flashbacks and it's from all of these instances since I was 11 years old. It's all of these instances throughout my life. It's not even before I was 11. It's not just one thing. I have flashbacks of all of these things I've experienced. I still have the jumpiness. I still have the nightmares. I don't have hallucinations anymore. I used to hear voices, and I used to see things from the experiences that I lived through that contributed to my PTSD. I would relive it literally. I would hallucinate that it was happening again. That hasn't happened in a few years. That hasn't happened probably 5 or 6 years. That hasn't happened in a while. Again, whether that was because I was using drugs, I don't know. So the next mental illness is anxiety. That, I think, is just, my entire family suffers from mental illnesses, and especially anxiety. So I don't want to say I have anxiety because of certain situations. I'm sure my entire life has contributed, and experiences and things I've witnessed, things I've been through contributes to it. But I also know it runs in my family. Especially on like all the women, every single female in my family, on like blood related, even non-blood related, actually, it's very strange, but we all have anxiety or depression. So it's just something my entire family deals with. So it goes back and forth between being crippling to being I can control it. I can say since I've gotten sober, it has started to manifest in physical form. Before I got sober, it was all it was mostly mental. So it would be the racing thoughts. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't sleep. The insomnia. I was always a nail biter, and my palms would get sweaty, and maybe my stomach would turn just a little bit, but it was never physical. Like I wouldn't have racing heartbeat. I wouldn't have high blood pressure. It wouldn't affect my breathing. It was all just about mental and my thoughts and personality and emotional. Like I would have a lot of emotional outbursts and crying, and I couldn't control when tears would flow down my face, even if I was happy, and I would laugh at the most random times. When somebody would die, I would laugh because that's how my anxiety was manifesting. Now, since I've gotten sober and I've learned to work through, now it's physical. I get the racing heartbeat, the fast pulse, the heavy breathing, the high blood pressure, the nausea and vomiting, the upset stomach, sweating, cold sweats, hot sweats all over, the migraines, blurred vision. It's never affected me that way until about 3 years ago. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm doing research and I'm still learning. I know I don't like it though. I would rather deal with how it was before, because I felt like I had better control over it before. Now that it's physical, I feel like there's less control over it. Like when my migraine happens or when I'm getting nauseous and vomiting, like I cannot control that. And I don't like that. I hate not having control over my body. So that's something new that I'm learning how to control. The substance abuse disorder, which I've talked about, here and there. It started when I was 11. I got sober officially when I was 27. And it originally started, the first time I ever tried drugs was after I was assaulted at age 11. And it's just progressed. I will say the very first drug I ever used was not weed. It was a hard drug. And it just, every time something bad happened, I would just add a new harder drug on top of that. And it would just get worse and worse and worse and worse. And the OCD me and my therapist over time have figured out that started. I've always been very picky and anxious about how my things have to be, but the OCD really started whenever I was about 19, after my boyfriend had died. That's when it really started manifesting that for me, it's more walking certain ways. Like whenever I walk, I have to count in my feet, like right foot, left foot, and I have to count, I have to end on my right foot on an even number. And whenever I'm talking, I use my hands a lot whenever I'm talking, but whenever I'm talking, I have to count my words. And whenever I end my sentence, I have to end on my right hand on an even finger. So for instance, this is like my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have to end on one of these fingers because those are even numbers. My thumb, middle finger, and ring finger are odd numbers because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 3, 5. Anyway, that's how my OCD is. It's counting, and I have to end on the right side of my body on an even number. And whenever I'm writing or typing, I can't end like on the left side of the page. I have to end like on the right side of the page. I can't end with like a word or two on this side of the page. So I have to keep going to end on the right hand side of the page somewhere. So that's how my OCD manifests. I know everyone is different. Some people have to do with switching stuff or organizing stuff. Mine does come with organizing clean, but it's really have to do with counting in numbers and ending on an even side and an even number. So that's a little bit about my mental illnesses and my mental disorders. I didn't want to make this too long. I didn't want to go into too much detail and overwhelm people I didn't want to make too much about the small details and overwhelm the people who are watching this. But I did want to open up myself a little bit more to you, so you know that it is not just you that's suffering through this or surviving through this and living with this. And like I said, I believe the first part of bringing awareness to something you're passionate about is talking about how it affects you in your personal everyday life. And mental health awareness is directly impacted my life in so many ways, between me, my family, my mom, my siblings, my kids. Everybody in my life has been affected by a mental health disorder or a mental illness. And I'm very passionate about not only bringing awareness to it and getting facts and statistics out there, but letting people know that they're not alone in this. And mental health has came so far from where it used to be. It's no longer a taboo subject, and it's no longer so touchy. Like, I'm not talking about the sensitivity of it. I mean, so many people now are open about their mental health, and it is a wonderful thing. You have people just crying to a camera, and they release it to the world to get support, and that is wonderful to me. Because 20 years ago, if somebody, quite literally, I can name a few in my mind right now. I'm not going to, because I don't want to call people out, but quite literally, people would be crying to cameras, release it 20, 25 years ago, even 15 years ago, and they got mocked and made fun of because they were crying to a camera. And people are like, why are you crying to a camera? You're so weak. You're so weak. And I'm very happy that now people can release the anguish that they have inside them any way that they need to, and it's becoming more and more accepted throughout society and cultures around the world. We still aren't there 100%, but we are moving closer in being able to talk about mental health and mental health disorders. I will say, even though we're able to talk about it, society is still not to the point of accepting certain disorders that are classified as disorders, such as substance abuse disorder. Even though now we could talk about mental health, a lot of people do not believe addiction is a part of mental health issues. So they don't compare the two, and they don't contrast the two, and they don't talk about the two together, because to them, they're not connected. And I think that is the next big hurdle we have to make it through somehow as a society, You cannot fix something unless you acknowledge and accept what it is. And substance abuse disorder is a mental health disorder. It is not a choice, okay? It's not a choice. And if that stings for you, if me saying that gets you like warm in your stomach and gets you heated and makes you want to say it is a choice, I'm asking you to figure out why that is. Why does it get you so offended and so angry or so upset or so hurt or just passionate, whatever it is for you, when someone says addiction is not a choice, it's a mental disorder? Why does it affect you so negatively? And maybe acknowledge that and learn to cope with it. Maybe your parent or somebody you loved was an addict and they hurt you deeply, and your defense mechanism to push them away so you don't get hurt again is to say it's not a choice, so you can't get hurt again, which I understand that 100%. I am an addict, and I've been hurt by other addicts, and I have said to them, you're choosing to do this. And I've had to catch myself and say, wait a minute, they're not choosing to do this. Calm down, because I did the same things, and I get it. I get why you would do that. But you need to understand why you would do that too. And we need to understand as a community and as a society why people are so against labeling substance abuse disorder as a mental health disorder. Why? Because it is one. And we can never get in front of this epidemic. We can never save the next generation of kids who are growing up with parents who are heroin addicts and meth addicts and get them away from that drug culture if we do not admit what addiction is. It's not a choice, and we need to figure out how to cope with this and how to cope with the pain and the hurt and the mistrust and the resentment against addiction. And that is a whole different subject in itself. But like I said, the first step is to talk about it. So that's what this video is. It's me opening up a little bit more so you can see I'm not just an addict. I'm not just somebody who chose to pick up drugs. I have a whole life story behind me. It's not just she's a heroin addict. Okay, I have 5 different mental illnesses that contribute to my drug addiction. And it's more than a choice. It's not just I chose to do this because I was upset. And I'm hoping maybe it's helped somebody understand it. And if you have more questions, always comment down below. Keep emailing me. If you email me at connect@TheAddictMom.Online or go to TheAddictMom.Online, all my links are there to get a hold of me. All my emails, any pages that you can go to contact me, to talk to me, everything is there. And I appreciate the emails that I've been getting and the messages I've been getting from people asking questions and clarification or just telling your story. I appreciate it and I love it. So I hope this helps somebody. I really do, because I know it's hard. And if you made it to the end, like I said, I know I didn't dive too deep and I didn't get into too many details, but I'm proud of you for sticking through it, because it's not easy to watch someone else talk about their mental illness and to sit through it without being triggered. It's very hard to do. I can't do it. So, okay, you guys. So, like I said, thank you for making it to the end. And if you have not watched my video yet, I'm going to link it above right here. It's about my GoFundMe to help support and donate for my sober boxes and wellness boxes. So I have a whole video explaining it, and the GoFundMe page is under the Addict Mom Sober Box and Sober Box Wellness Boxes, and I'll link it down below as well so you can go to it and read more about it. These boxes will help addicts who are new to recovery and detox, and a wellness box is essentially the same thing, but just for somebody who A, doesn't want to recover and they just need help, or B, somebody who is not an addict and they need help. So these can do a lot of good. And also, I should have said this at the beginning, but maybe I'll input it at the beginning. Anyway, I am going to make an official nonprofit and an LLC for the Addict Mom, because I want people to believe in what I'm doing, and I want people to trust me when they donate. And I feel like having an official nonprofit and official LLC, it will help people to trust in me. You know, if you're donating to an actual corporation, maybe it can go a little bit farther. People can see that I'm serious about this. And if I start it now, maybe by the time I graduate, it can be built up enough that I can just carry on my career with that. I'm hoping, but I hope that y'all see I'm very serious about this. And it's not just me trying to get a couple $100s to do a few boxes and be done with it. I want this to go on forever, for as long as I can. And I hope me taking the steps I need to make it legit helps you believe in me. Because if I don't have anybody believing in me and believing in what I do, nobody can get help. That's one thing I've learned. We have to believe in each other and believe in each other's causes, or nobody will get help, because it's never going to go anywhere. So anyway, I will see you next time. Don't forget, Tuesdays are my new podcast, and stay safe, make wise choices, and have a good day. Bye, guys.
Intentions rarely matter. We are where we have to be. Do you think you have control? Are you really free? The fire's in your face, I know you feel it's here. You try to put it down, but somehow it's still it. I know I'm not supposed to, but I can't abstain. From wondering where you are, maybe still behind your bars. Your memory still pushes dopamine into my veins, while the real you is cutting up my scars. Are we walking down this road with no beginning? Or are we staying still and losing our entire